Mel, everybody, I'm Cantonese Cat. Hey everyone, Cantonese Cat here. A lot of people ask me which one should I buy, Clean Spark or Mara. I have no idea. I'm not here to give you financial advice. I will compare the two though and kind of tell you in terms of what I think is going on. A lot of people are complaining about Clean Spark lagging behind Mara again, just like a lot of people were complaining about Mara lagging behind Clean Spark. I guess it's just like driving on a highway. Sometimes you are on one lane, there's a traffic jam. Look over to the next lane, you see that the lane moves faster, you switch your lane over, and next thing you know, the lane that you just switch into is not moving anymore, and the other lane's moving again. So, I mean, I think you have a general perspective is that the lane seems like it's moving, is they're both bull trends. They're both just basically hitting a little bit of a traffic. They're both hitting a lot of different kinds of resistance. They're actually hitting very, very similar types of resistance, actually. But regardless, they both have momentum. These are monthly charts of Mara and Clean Spark. You can see that it's really been forming just higher lows and higher highs for both over the last 18 months or so. Clean Spark does look a little bit more impulsive though, right? You look at the MCDX indicator, you can see that there's been a lot more whales throughout the entire movement up higher compared to Mara. Mara just doesn't look as strong, right? And because of that, you're getting a little bit punished for it. Some of them took profits, and you end up having a little bit more downtrend here. Whereas Mara, some of them already have taken profits over the last 3 or 4 months, and they're starting to maybe enter it in a bigger way, right? So these are just some caveats. Now, with regards to Clean Spark, you do have a little bit of declining of retail, so that's a little bit of a positive here. Mara definitely have significant decline in retail, right? So all these are positive trend when it comes to fund flow. If you look though at the fintel.io data, as well as let me pull up the Black Hat data here too, right? Clean Spark, you never really had whales like really significantly leaving as the inflow overall is still pretty significant. Mara also had pretty significant inflow as well. But if you look at the fintel.io data, like for May, yeah, you have an uptick in Mara, but for CleanSpark, you're already showing a lot of increase, significantly increase in institutional ownership already for the data that we have for May, right? Actually looks better than Mara in terms of the raw data that we have. Again, these data is going to continuously get updated. We don't have the most updated yet, right? But you can see very similar thing you're seeing here on the Blackhead Fund Flow indicator. And the fact that CleanSpark, the whales really haven't left at all, whereas Mara, they have temporarily left for the month of April, and now they're coming back, right? So that's maybe why you're feeling the way that you are, why you feel like CleanSpark is kind of underperforming Mara for the last week or two whenever you start having a rally. But there's a reason for that too. If you look at the drawings here, there are a couple of things here. First of all, both Mara and CleanSpark are experiencing some very similar thing. If you look at the GAN, you can see that it's stuck inside this arc right here, right? For both Mara and for CleanSpark. They're both stuck inside the arc right here, so it's kind of a little bit of a wash, right? The second thing to see is that they're both trying to push against this important Fibonacci levels. For CleanSpark is pushing against this, it went a little bit further than Mara for the last 18 months and is trying to push against the 0.382 Fibonacci retracement level, whereas Mara is trying to push against the 0.236 Fibonacci levels, right? So they're both kind of facing their own demons, if you will, and they're both kind of getting a little bit rejected from their respective Fib levels, right? And they're just facing a lot of very similar headwinds here, right? The key thing here is that if you look at a bigger picture, CleanSpark is still ahead. What I mean by that is if you look at the greater picture in terms of the Ichimoku cloud, Mara is still way underneath the monthly Ichimoku cloud, right? It's just now starting to reclaim the Tenkan Nikishin after this bullish cross. It fell underneath for quite some time, right? Whereas for CleanSpark, it's already right up against the monthly Ichimoku cloud. It already back tested the Kishin and Tenkan down here, had a bullish cross. It's just trying real hard to try and break about this resistance, right? I think we're getting pretty close over here. Whereas Mara is still got plenty of room to go up to get closer to the cloud, But when you get closer to cloud, you might end up having a lot of different kinds of resistance there, because at the cloud up here is 0.5 Fibonacci level. It's also, yeah, it's just a lot of different kind of confluence over here that makes you think that, hey, maybe around 40 and 50 you're going to end up having a lot of resistance levels up here too, right? Whereas CleanSpark may not have that problem, right? Once it battles the arc right here, it might have a horizontal zone right here to battle, but you're really talking about the cloud up here. You're really talking about the next arc is like all the way up here. So CleanSpark's hitting a little bit of short-term traffic, whereas Mara may not have as much short-term traffic, but the traffic can be ahead for that, right? So that's thing number one to kind of consider. Thing number two to consider too is CleanSpark is backtesting the 0.382 Fibonacci level, whereas Mara is backtesting the 0.236, right? So it really makes you think that, hey, CleanSpark might actually be a little bit ahead over here in a longer term, right? So there are a couple of things too. In addition to, again, institutional ownership, there's a big jump over here, whereas Mara there's a jump, but for some reason, CleanSpark has a much bigger jump, right? It's just not reflected in the price yet, but it will. And I still feel that both of them are probably going to do pretty decent over the next 12 to 18 months or so. But I do think that CleanSpark in a higher time frame is ahead, whereas Mara may have a little bit less resistance ahead of it, but it's also going to hit some strong resistance moving ahead. Whereas CleanSpark could end up hitting some of the strong resistance now, but it could be a little bit more of a clear sky ahead of it afterwards. Okay, so if you ask me, okay, so why aren't we buying MicroStrategy instead? It's already kind of pushed through the monthly cloud. It's already pretty far ahead. Why are we not buying that instead, right? I guess one thing to consider is I don't really have a strong argument against it because a lot of the technicals are very similar in terms of backtesting the ticket in kitchen. You had the bullish cross over here. MicroStrategy is looking very good. If you want to rotate into MicroStrategy, that's fine. Like I would recommend, well, I wouldn't recommend anything. I would recommend for myself that maybe I would want to put a little bit more basket of money here in CleanSpark, a little bit of my basket of money in Mara, and a little bit of basket of my money in MicroStrategy, just in case if they have different speed in terms of their lanes, I'm still making strive ahead, right? The only warning sign is that you have to think about some of these early performers, such as MicroStrategy. Last cycle is also very much an early performer, but it really burned out over here in February after a really significant crazy move, right? Whereas Mara wasn't as impulsive, but it made a higher high in April after that, even though MicroStrategy really completely peaked out in February during the last cycle, right? Mara made a higher high in April, and a few months later, half a year later, it made another higher high in November, right? So there's something to be said about potentially this move over here. This move over here might get a little bit more burnout, and you might start to have a lot of people who end up, being in deep profits over here that end up starting to need to take profit and rotate to other things. Same thing with CleanSpark, potentially after it goes up higher, a lot of people might end up rotating to some of the late performers like Mara. That's something to be considered, right? I'm not saying that it is going to happen. I'm just saying that, for me, I'd rather put my eggs in different baskets. So if they end up getting crushed or end up getting cooked, then at least I have other eggs in other baskets. But they're all looking very, very good in terms of all of these. So those are just my thoughts in comparison. I still think that CleanSpark is probably going to be a little bit more ahead in the medium term. I wonder if Mara is going to be more like a late cycle performer. We will see. There's no guarantee of any of these things. I'm just speculating, just like what everybody else is doing out there. So I'm not sure why everybody else is so sure about what they're seeing, but that's what I'm seeing. Anyway, take care. Bye.